Hi, I'm Jackie O'Sullivan. I'm the Executive Director of Communications, Advocacy and Activism at Mencap. Oh, crikey, it was an audacious goal and a half, really. It was social care reform. And as part of that, getting £8 billion for the Treasury to shore up the system, which I must say is not for Mencap, it's for the reform of the system and reform of social care. So yes, it was huge, and I guess with that, we don't know exactly when any proposals would come, whether they would be enough, what they would contain. All of these unknowns meant that Agile lent itself perfectly to this brief, so that we could take in intelligence and respond to it, whether that was getting a quote into the media, getting a media spokesperson out, developing a policy response, being able to model exactly what something like the Dilnot cap might look like for working age disabled adults. And so that's really why Agile was so good for this work, because it helped us cope with the uncertainty, and it helped us maximize our influence at exactly the right moments. So we made sure that we really nailed the objectives. We spent quite a lot of time thinking about that, getting buy-in from the rest of the organisation, and really being very focused about that. We also got the right people into the team, and people as well that would respond well to this sort of working, and they've really embraced it with enthusiasm. And then we made sure that we had the people who perhaps ordinarily might have been involved in this work actually as advisors, so they felt they were still in the loop and still involved, but not directly having to deliver. We also then we asked the team to look at their own 30 and 90-day goals and objectives, and they did an awful lot of work. They used Mural, they did a lot of brainstorming, they went through all the techniques and came out with some really tight objectives. Of course, they put far more down than they could probably bring off in a particular time period. So we've had to then have discussions about how we can streamline those, how we can make it more focused. But it's been really brilliant that actually this way of working has meant that the team themselves have been setting their targets and setting their objectives, and it's developed that sense of momentum where they are powering through them and then looking for what's next. That's a really interesting question. So I felt quite excited about what was happening, and also quite curious. In some ways, I obviously we needed it to work, but I didn't expect it to be as successful as it was. Actually, I thought we'd encounter more teething problems than we have. So excited, curious, and then also really pleasantly surprised. So top three greatest surprises, I suppose how easily the team took to it. And they really did. They've really embraced this way of working. They were really enthusiastic, and they felt like we had just given them freedom and responsibility. And you can feel that coming back from the team, and in the way that they are maintaining themselves, and the way that it really is truly integrated. So it's bringing together people that wouldn't naturally have worked together. They'd be colleagues and we all work together, but they wouldn't have actually been in really close team working situations, and they've really gelled and really bonded. And then I suppose we had some roles that we didn't really have a natural fit for, say the Scrum Master role, and actually my EA took that role on, and that's been a real revelation because she's now really very expert on social care. She's really got to grips with the subject. She really loves the Agile way of working. She's actually it's really developed her and given her a sort of standing within that team. So that's been tremendous. So I would say the impact on individuals and the way they've responded to it. I think the main one for me would be the quality of work and the output that we got from a survey we did of people's experience of social care during COVID. And this was a survey that the team constructed, the team delivered, the team pulled together the report, wrote it up, sourced case studies, did the stakeholder engagement, sold into the media, and we got oodles of media coverage and an awful lot of social media engagement. It was referenced on social media engagement and also stakeholder engagement. So, you know, it's been referenced in the Commons and in the House of Lords. It's been, you know, it's part of the experiences of people during COVID kind of feedback that now will go down on record. And that was incredibly powerful and real testament to the way that the team work in this very joined up way, that that report basically was greater than the sum of its parts, and that was really pleasing and also desperately important step on our journey. I think the other thing is the way that we have started to be seen as an organisation as having something to say on social care and being an important voice on social care, and ultimately that will mean that working age disabled adults, and in particular people with learning disabilities, will not be left out of that debate. And you know, that means we're being invited to more conferences, invited to speak, invited to comment. We're being seen as part of that kind of national conversation. And, you know, we have social affairs correspondents now who we don't have to explain that actually social care covers working age disabled adults anymore. And they are coming to us for comment on things. So those are the big two items, I think, for me. I think setting the 90-day goals, and I think every time we've done that has brought something else to the fore. So actually, and it's made them reflect on just what they've achieved, which has been fantastic, but also it's helped them focus. And each time they've done it, we've focused a little bit more on what is really important here. And you know, recognizing that, you know, in the other day, it would have been top down. So we would have had, you know, conversations at a senior leaders level, and it would have then filtered down into individual tasks for people to do. And what we're seeing is that combined effort of being able to do it together at the level at which that work is being done, and almost having the senior team as you know, advisors and people that will help facilitate things if they need it. So I think those have been big turning points. I think being able to reflect in kind of real time on what they've achieved, being able to use the goal setting process to really focus. And I think then just gelling as a team and getting a greater insight. Some of the fringe benefits of this have been people saying to me, I really understand now what the media team need to do their work. So even if they're working on different topics now, we have a better working relationship and better understanding of people's ways of working. And, you know, I think that has enormous benefits for the organisation. We've managed to maintain a focus on social care. Increasingly, it is being talked about in the context of it being important for working age disabled adults and people with a learning disability. So we've managed to make sure that those messages are cutting through. There has been some more money from Treasury, about £1 billion. It's not enough. But at least there's acknowledgement in government circles that there does need to be more funding into social care. So there are positive sounds on that, and positive sounds on social care reform being imminent. So my biggest learnings have been actually trusting the team and letting them get on with it isn't risky, actually. You know, they've really embraced that. They've really grown in their roles. and they've really done a cracking job. So I would say that I expected there to be a sort of higher level of risk involved in that, and there wasn't. And they've been, they've been amazing, and they've taken to this really, really brilliantly. So that's my kind of the number one. I suppose my second learning really is around my role, actually. And I thought initially on the outset my role was to give people freedom and let them get on with it and set clear goals. But then but actually it's, I've recognized that I need to be saying to the rest of the organization, telling the rest of the organization and telling the rest of my directorate what we need to give that team in order to enable them to be even more successful. So I think there's two things. Firstly, what they can do if you just free people up to get on with it and set them up with these ways of working that really bring out the best in people, but also then what we need to do as an organization to support that. Oh, that's a really interesting question. So what would I do differently? I think I would showcase the work of the team to the rest of the organization, and that's something that I want to do, because I think that there's an awful lot that other teams could learn from this way of working. So yes, I think I'd do that probably at an earlier stage as well. I was thinking that we would run this for a period of time and then do some analysis, but actually it's worked so well, I think we could look to roll it out in other areas sooner rather than later. I think for me, there's been something about the way that I support the team and really changing my perspective from one of, I got into that space of realizing this is not top-down management and I need to let go, but actually seeing myself as more a sort of an enabler for the rest of the organization. So in some ways, I think if I'd viewed my role as more of an enabler from the start, it might have been helpful for the team. I think there is something about, people want to do more than they can achieve. And actually, as part of my role as well of going through their plans and thinking, well, actually, can we just look at it? Do you need to do this in the next 30 days? Is this something that you could, is this absolutely essential out of these two things, which is going to give you the maximum? So a little bit more challenge in those spaces, I think, would have been helpful.